Hey guys, it's the DJ. It's Sunday. Sunday. It is finally September. It's September 1st. Let me get myself situated here. Got the guy watching my back there. Um, Today we're gonna talk about, and maybe my viewer by the name of Mofo, who hails from Michigan, is gonna like this story. Um, Kind of like the Jewish birthright trip. You're familiar with that, where if you're born as a Jewish individual, you can take a trip financed by the Jewish community to Israel once you're like 18 or something. The Italians have a different thing going on, but ours happened like every year. So as being grown up or raised as an Italian in the Midwest, as I got older, my father, God rest his soul, he's been gone for probably like 20 some years, over 20 years, so we miss him. But he's looking down on us. Every fall, we would make a pilgrimage to Michigan, Harbor Country, Michigan, to pick grapes because my father was a winemaker in the fall. He was a home winemaker during the fall pretty much every year. Many, probably I can remember at least 25 trips that I took. I didn't make them all, but 25 trips to Michigan. We would set out, and here's how the trips worked. Usually my father, my mother, me, and maybe one of my other uncles, my mother's brother. And then sometimes it was just me and my dad and my other two uncles that were on my mother's side. One who made wine and the other one just along for the ride. So here's how every trip um, went because yeah, we would leave from like the Joliet area of Illinois at about 3 o'clock in the morning. And in the early days, my dad had a four-door Toyota Corolla, and we would be towing probably like a 10-foot utility trailer, like a trailer that could probably hold like, I don't know, 800 to 1,000 pounds. And he had bought this at I don't know, I think he got it at like Harbor Freight, and put some sides on it and everything. And he would latch that thing up to his Toyota Corolla, and there would be four of us in the Toyota Corolla, and we would head out at 3 in the morning, heading east to the Benton Harbor area, Michigan, specifically Sawyer, Michigan, which is just past right in the Benton Harbor area, where we would go and visit a farmer that somehow he had gotten a hold of this guy. Who this guy? Well, he was a farmer. He was a farmer. He grew grapes for Smuckers. He grew Concord grapes for Smuckers. He also had apples and peaches and tomatoes, and he had like a barracks where back in the day the legal migrants. Okay, he I guess he would have migrants that would come up every year from Mexico, spend the summer with him, and he would give them lodging there, and they would work in the fields for him. So he was a big time um, produce maker in Michigan. They're in Sawyer, Michigan. Um, so we, like I said, we would start out at 3 in the morning and drive from there. It's probably about a 3 hour drive to Sawyer. And shortly before we would get there, our highlight of the trip was we would stop at a local Truckers America usually, and have breakfast, have a hearty breakfast. That was the highlight of the day, depending on how the weather was too. So this happened, like I said, it was right after a couple weeks after Friday. My dad would be on the phone with Vern, calling Vern, when are the grapes ready? When are the grapes ready? He would make sure that we were there right after they were ready and ripe enough for winemaking. So, like I said, we head out, do our 3 hours, hit Truckers America, and then the fun began. So after you had a good hearty breakfast, we would start picking. So, for those of you who have never picked grapes in the fall, it can get kind of wet. One, if it's raining. There was a couple of years that we went and literally we were wearing rain gear. You know, we had ponchos and stuff to keep us from totally soaking to the bones. And you have like a pair of big scissors or wire cutters, and you'd go and you'd cut the grapes and put them in a bucket, big bucket, or a tote, big cardboard tote is eventually where these all went, and you would just do that. It would probably take about an hour or two, probably 2 hours to pick the grapes. We would probably pick anywhere from 8 to 10 of these huge cardboard totes of grapes. My dad would probably take like 8 totes, 9 totes, and then my uncle, who lived in the Peoria area, he would take a tote and he would make wine usually, and he would just have like a 1 tote or a half a tote or something like that. So as you're picking, the grapes too, because it's in the fall and it's kind of in the fall is when you get a little bit of that dew, right? If you're up early in the morning in the fall, you'll notice there's a lot of dew around, especially on harbor country in Michigan. So you'd get wet there too. All your whatever you were wearing, a sweater or sweatshirt, would always get wet. Um, and then the other part in the early days, this grape grower, he didn't tell us, but the rows that he gave us were the ones that were where he couldn't get his automatic picker into, and also he couldn't get his mowers in there very well. So early on, we found out that he had poison ivy in some of these vines, and I know my uncle and my mother one year, the first year they went, they didn't want to go back because they both ended up with poison ivy because they were working on the row with the poison ivy. Um, yeah, here we got some weirdo here comment. I'm not even gonna address that comment, but anyway, so we would pick the grapes, and then once we were done, we would load up, and then we would also purchase probably 8 or 9 bushels of apples to take home too. My dad had like a grocery list of apples that he would purchase from this farmer for himself and friends and family, and we would put those on the top of the grapes. So here we had this 4-door Toyota Corolla from the 19, oh God, it was probably the 1980s, and then this utility trailer loaded with 2 levels. There was on the bottom there was grapes, like 10 totes, these huge, just like big, like double the size, like a mail tote of grapes, full of grapes. Each tote was probably like 75 pounds, and then we had a layer of flimsy wood, and then we put the apples, and then we would head back home another 3.5 hours like that, all loaded up. Um, at the time, they weren't very fun. Let's say that it was a lot of work. You had to get up early. Traffic was atrocious. If you've ever driven around the lake early in the morning, the amount of semi traffic is just unreal. There is a hell of a lot of semi traffic that heads through Gary, Indiana, and that area. So there's a lot of traffic. And then once we got home, the work began. So you spend about 6 hours on the road, 2 hours picking, and then once you get home, you had to crush the grapes and get it all bubbling. You had to get it fermenting, which entailed we had a grape crusher or stemmer kind. It would take some of the stems off, but not all of them. And it was like a big hopper, and you would pour some grapes into this hopper, and then it had a crank, and you put this hopper over the like a garbage can. It was like food quality plastic garbage can, and it would the grapes would get crushed and they would go down. And you would do that. I think we would have like three 30-gallon garbage cans, like halfway full, once we were done of crushed grapes, and that would begin the starting process of making wine. So, like I said, we usually pick the grapes somewhere between first, second week of September, and if we were lucky, or if the family was lucky, we would have the first wine. Right, it would be still a little green, not not totally drinkable, but we would drink it anyway around Thanksgiving of every year. We would have at least some wine that was somewhat drinkable by Thanksgiving, and then usually by February the wine was a little more subdued and not as I don't know, wild, I guess. For you guys that know how to, if you've made wine before, you know how wine has to kind of simmer down and acquire some taste. So as I wake up here in September, it brings back a lot of memories, folks. A lot of memories of the many years traveling from Illinois to Harbor Country, where my friend Mofo hangs out. So shout out to Mofo today. There he is. Uh 30-day balloon wine. Okay. Yeah, I think I might have heard of that. That's like the home. This was a little, yeah, our I think my dad made the most wine you could make as a homemaker without having a license. He was he would probably make he would make the average home winemaker blush. Let's just put it that way. Like I said, he had three 30-gallon garbage cans to start with. So there you go. So there you go, Mofo. That's why I know so much about Harbor Country and wine country in Michigan. I've spent a good amount of time there. It's a beautiful place to visit, especially this time of year when it's grape picking season. You can buy yourself some apples and enjoy what's going on. Yeah, no hot pepper. We never did hot peppers. We pretty much stuck to the Concord grapes. Um, I think that was about it. I think that was about it. He might have experimented with adding some things to that, but for the most part, he liked to make He made like a Concord grape wine that had a super high. It was almost like a brandy. It had super high alcohol content because he would use a lot of sugar too to raise that alcohol content. So it was like a true Dago Italian um, port, almost like a port wine. So that's that's part of my heritage, folks. As being an Italian, I learned how to. I could make wine today. It's a lot of work, though. It is a lot of work. I prefer to go to Trader Joe's and stock up, and that's one of the things I do every year in the fall. Is I will make a trip to Trader Joe's and pick up probably a case a case of wine to hold me through the winter, and sometimes I give some out as gifts for the holidays. So I've actually got a big wine rack in my basement that can probably hold about 150 bottles of wine. So yeah, Mofo's got some ideas here. He's got talking about hot peppers and cinnamon sticks, and yeah, Mofo, make me some wine. Make me some wine this fall, and tell me how it turns out. So there you go. Those are the memories I have of Michigan and harbor country. So if you're looking for something to do this fall, think about heading over to harbor country. It's like I said, it's probably grape picking season in the next week or two. All the way, it's done. It's done. Oh no, come on. It can't be done. It can't be done. There's probably still some going on. Um, but the area of Coloma is big. There's several wineries over there. There's a winery trail um, from the Benton Harbor area all the way up to Coloma that you can take, and there's various stops of wineries. I think Roundhouse comes to mind, St. Julian comes to mind, Tabor Hill, I believe. It was very, very old winery over there. But there's probably at least 10 or 12 wineries in that area. It's done. It's done. Yeah, Mofo says it's done. But anyway, you could pick yourself up some apples too over there. There is a couple of produce places there where you can stop and buy yourself some apples and whatever else they got there. Maybe some tomatoes. I know my friend Vern, where he picked these grapes. He grew tomatoes, peaches, 4 or 5 different types of apples. Um, he was a big agricultural producer over there. I don't know how many acres he had, but he had a hell of a lot, and he would ship out his apples. He would wash them. He had like a little barn there where they would pick the apples from his trees. They would bring them into this barn. They would wash them and size them and grade them, and he would actually ship them to Illinois. There was like one of these places where you go in Illinois, and they had maybe 5 acres of apple trees, but they would sell 20 acres worth, right? That's how that works. They made it sound like they grew them all, but they didn't. He had a he had a he would have a semis full of apples that he would ship out to some of these places. And there was one in Peoria. I forget the name of the place, but they were a big place where he shipped his apples in the fall, so they could sell them to the people that wanted to come out and experience buying some apples and taking them home, right? And running around the orchard a little bit, and maybe pick some if they could. But then they would say, "Oh, we're all out of it. All the apples have been picked, but here we got a couple of bushels you can buy and take home." So that's how that worked. All right, so that's the story for today. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're enjoying your holiday weekend. It is Labor Day. Tomorrow, you hardworking people get a day off. 20% of what? What are we talking about? What are we talking about, Mofo? I haven't seen Mofo in a while. Where have you been hiding, Mofo? You in virtual reality, and even my friend David F. Larson. In the process of reading his book, I'm probably 300 pages into his book. Man, that's a crazy book. Crazy book. Check it out. David F. Larson on Amazon. The book's name is Preppers. If you're into being prepared, you need to read this book because it goes through some scenarios and some things I never really thought about. Yeah, it's kind of a scary book. Kind of a scary book, and it's fictional, but not so much. I think it could actually happen in the future, folks. So check out on Amazon, like $16. Great book written by one of my viewers, um, David F. Larson, Larson, called The Preppers. If you're into being prepared. All right. So I think I'm going to end the day like that. Bring some sounds in. As Chicago, check out the videos we did yesterday. I think I just released a short. I'm gonna release a short today. Already released one. Had a video yesterday where we talked about Chicago being a billion, yes, with a B, $1 billion in debt, and learn about that a little bit. We got awesome content here on Land Cruiser Midwest. Check out susie-q slots too. She's producing some content out there. We were just in Wisconsin last night and had a nice dinner at one of the little Harley hangouts in Genoa, Wisconsin, folks. So that's my update. That is my update. I'm going to end it right here as we end every show with a hand slap and a see ya.